Hey y'all, hey world, this is Eric Powery again, and I want to tell you part of my agenda for education. Um, I fully support expanding vocational schools. I want to give kids the skills that pay the bills, like carpentry, construction workers, HVAC professionals, contract painters, plumbers, deconstructionists, bricklayers, concrete pourers, electricians, auto mechanics, abortists, urban farmers, gardeners, landscapers. These are the jobs that a lot of millennials and Generation Zers don't want to do, so they're in high demand. I talked to my great friend who does HVAC, and he has about 12 employees. He said he cannot keep up with the work because there's not enough people qualified who know how to do it. And to do HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, you have to know what you're doing. You have to. You can't be going up in there scratching your head and twiddling your thumbs trying to guess and be watching YouTube videos trying to figure it out. You got to know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? To get that system to work properly and correctly. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about the William E. Britt Kirwan Commission that I fully support. Unfortunately, a sales tax increase was struck down to help fund it, but there's money there to fund it. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. No crony capitalism, no big contracts. We can invest in education, and we're making an investment in the future. We're making an investment into people having better lives, having higher wages, okay? And that money is going to circulate in the economy, so it's an investment. It's an investment, you know what I'm saying? Because people are going to do better, they're going to pay more taxes. So all services that need to be funded will be expanded, like sanitation, like education, like school athletics, like the drama, like the arts, like vocational schools, all this stuff that has been divested from and defunded. A lot of it is because there's a lot of theft. There's a small amount of people enriching themselves. But there's just economics too. On top of that, is that there's been a population reduction in Baltimore City, and the people are not doing as good as their ancestors. So you have over half of the population that has left Baltimore City, and the people that are here are not doing as well as the people of yesteryear. So that's a major problem. So there's been lots of divestment in the inner city. There's no nice supermarkets. You can't find a Whole Foods anywhere. You can't find a Wegmans. You can't even find a Giant. You know what I'm saying? Not in the inner city. So I'm going to talk about the William E. Britt Kirwan Commission, and I subscribe to the Baltimore Sun, and I recommend anybody subscribe to the Baltimore Sun. The digital version is great too. Key questions about the Kirwan Commission and debate over funding Maryland public schools by Pamela Wood of the Baltimore Sun. Politicians and educational advocates are debating the merits and costs of the recommendations for Maryland's public schools made by the Kirwan Commission. Here are answers to some key questions about one of Maryland's most significant public policy issues. So what is the Kirwan Commission? The Maryland General Assembly created the commission in 2016 with the charge of making recommendations on how to prepare students for college or the workforce so they can, quote, meet the challenges of a global economy, end quote, and, quote, be successful citizens in the 21st century, end quote. It's officially called the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, but many call it the, quote, Kirwan Commission, end quote, after its chairman, William E. Britt Kirwan, a former chancellor of the University System of Maryland and former president of the University of Maryland, College Park. He was appointed chairman jointly by Governor Larry Hogan, the state Senate president, and the State House Speaker. The 26-member commission is comprised of several state lawmakers, the state school superintendent, Hogan's budget secretary, the chancellor of the university system, and representatives from state and local school boards, teachers' unions, school administrators, parents, and others. So, what is recommended? The commission studied educational policy for 2 years, including looking at what's worked in other states and countries. Some of the highlights of their recommendations are: 1. Expanding pre K to all 4-year-olds as well as 3-year-olds from poor families. 2. Increasing the standards to become a teacher and raising teachers' salaries. 3. Revamping high schools to offer students training for well-paying jobs right after graduation. 4. Establishing more, quote, community schools, end quote, with additional services for students and their families. 5. Providing more support to special education students and schools with concentrations of poor families. 6. Creating accountability to program to make creating accountability to make sure money for education goes where it's supposed to go. So how much will this all cost? All of these programs will cost significantly more money than what's spent on education in Maryland. The commission envisions phasing in new and expanded programs over 10 years. By that time, the state and local school systems would be putting a total of about $4 billion more into public schools per year than they would be if spending stayed on its current course. The state share of the increase will be $2.8 billion at the full phase-in, while local government would pay $1.2 billion more combined. The city would bear one of the most significant cost increases, $340 million by 2030. So who's paying for it? The state government and local governments jointly pay for public education, and that wouldn't change for the programs the commission is suggesting. The impacts of the funding formulas vary from county to county, breaking down the amount they will contribute for costs versus the state's contribution. Some school districts would have to come up with significantly more money, while others would need minimal to no changes on how much local money would go into schools. Local governments get most revenue from property taxes and a county-level income tax. So, counties that need to put significantly more into public schools could look to those areas to raise money. The state share is likely to come from a variety of sources. State lawmakers passed a bill in 2019 that puts Cure-On programs into the budget for 3 years. Beyond those initial years, lawmakers are considering an array of options to raise money, from legalizing sports betting to boosting the state's tobacco tax to applying the state sales tax to downloads of digital media, such as ebooks and music. House Speaker Adrian A. Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson have pledged to pass the Cure-On Commission bill They have pledged to pass the Cure-On Commission bill without across-the-board increases in the state sales tax income or property taxes. So, the next question is: Are my taxes going to go up by $6,000? This is something Hogan has said, but it's highly unlikely that every Maryland family would face such a tax hike of that magnitude. The Hogan administration came up with that number by combining the extra funding needed for Cure-On with the estimated effects of a possible recession and future years of estimated budget shortfalls for a total of $18.7 billion. The administration then divided that among the state's 3 million taxpayers to get an estimate of $6,000 or more per family. The future budget shortfall is a dubious measure to use because the state is required each year to have a balanced budget. Essentially, the governor and lawmakers each year have to make adjustments to make sure any projected deficit does not materialize. Boosters of the Cure-On plan have said some of the programs can be paid for with regular growth in state revenues plus potential new sources of money that are being debated. Local governments are evaluating whether they'd have to raise property taxes to pay their share. So when will I find out if taxes go up? State lawmakers will review the governor's proposed budget and consider any tax changes during the General Assembly session that runs through mid-April. The Kiron recommendations and how to pay for them are expected to be the most intensely debated topic during the session. Local governments approve their budgets in May and June. So why is Hogan opposing this plan? Hogan has said the Kiron plans are unaffordable and has rebranded the commission as the, quote, Kiron Tax Hike Commission, end quote. He has criticized the commission's work as well-meaning but half-baked and fiscally irresponsible. While Hogan has criticized the commission in speeches and social media, he declined an invitation to meet with the commission. Hogan's budget secretary, David Brinkley, is a member of the commission and has raised concerns on the governor's behalf. So who's for the Kiron Commission? The Maryland State Education Association, the statewide teachers union, is backing the Kiron proposals. The union planned to spend $500,000 on television ads to support the additional school funding and created a pro-Kiron website, marylandblueprint.org. During the 2019 General Assembly session, MSEA spent $784,000 on lobbying, the most of any cause. A statewide nonprofit coalition called, quote, Strong Schools Maryland, end quote, is promoting the Kiron plan as a, quote, once-in-a-generation opportunity to build a world-class education system, end quote. Several other advocacy groups, such as support the recommendations, including the ACLU, Advocates for Children and Youth, and Baltimoreans for Educational Equity. Thank you for listening. I fully support the Kiron Commission. We are going to have in Baltimore City a world-class education system, because that's where we need to attack these problems at the root. And the only way to give these kids a fighting chance is to give them all the tools they need to be successful. You know what I'm saying? And especially kids in the most impoverished neighborhoods who deal with so much negativity at home. You know, it could be a revolving door of men. It could be, it could be a lot of stuff. So the school is going to be a place of refuge and a great place, a safe haven for these children to learn, to get fed. We're going to have, again, healthy lunch, healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's going to be a great place for these kids to feel safe and to have a place to escape a lot of the horrors that they go through and they deal with. Thank you for listening. Again, vote Eric Powery April 28th. And please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Subscribe to Mayor Powery. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you for supporting this channel. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the love I've been getting in the streets. People are starting to recognize me in the streets. It's been the experience of a lifetime, and I just appreciate all the support. Again, ericpowery.com to go there. But please subscribe, like, share, and comment, and comment, and share some more. Okay, but please subscribe. Hit the bell. Peace.